Evening, folks. Hi, my name is JD from Studio 2105. Welcome to Direct Access MixStream, and this is MixStream episode 45. Okay, thank you so much for tuning. If you are new to this channel, a warm welcome to you. Please do, if you are not yet a subscriber, right? I do highly suggest that you, and I would appreciate it if you were to click on the subscribe button and to click on the notification bell as well. So, what is MixStream? This is a bi-weekly live stream that I do. Well, I try to do this every fortnight, every 2 weeks or so, depending on the schedule, depending on the availability of the projects that I can showcase on the live streams lah. But it's a live stream mixing session that I do, and I've been doing this for like the past 2 years already. Hence, this is episode 45, and I showcase right the mixing process behind some of the songs that I've been working on, right, tracks that either I've produced or recorded here at my studio, or sometimes even tracks that were recorded elsewhere, right, and sent to me for mixing. Okay, so the whole process of right creating the favorite songs that we love to hear and that we love to listen to, it's a long complicated process, right? There's the songwriting, there's pre-production, there's rehearsals, the actual recording itself. And here is only a little glimpse into the mixing process, which is right one of the final processes, right, before mastering. But right, it's a very important and vital part of the mix of the process as well. So hopefully this gives people right a glance right into the look of how right some of our songs are made, and some of your favorite songs out there are mixed. Okay, so speaking of which, this week's episode, I'm going to be featuring right a very special. It's a good friend of mine, right? Toy Nizam, and Toy is a no stranger to the Malaysian music industry. Okay, he is a super talented guy. He's a multi-talented, right? Being a musician, a songwriter, a singer in his own right. Okay, many people remember that Toy was an alumni of the Akademi Fantasia, right? Akademi Fantasia season 6, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correct. And he is also really well known as the angklung guy, Mr. Angklung, right? Toy Angklung, right? In fact, we did some angklung recording, right? This week, and also next week we'll be doing some stuff. So that will be cool, right? Hopefully, I'll get some video footage of that as well to post on my channel. And last but not least, okay, Toy is, besides being a solo artist, he is of course very well known as being one of the founding members of Hyperact. Okay, right. So Hyperact, we've got a lot of one of the biggest bands, right, in the mid 2010s, or the past decade, right, which are again I'm very proud to have worked with lah. So this is a brand new track, all right, titled Pishang. Okay, right. Right, so this is actually, as you can tell by the title already, this is right it's a song which it's not it's written but it's a song that's not taking itself too seriously. Okay, it's a fun song. It's got a humorous title, and the way that Toy's presentation delivery is a little bit funny, right? It's meant to be a little bit comedic as well. But hey, even though it's a fun comedic song, it's actually got a really sweet message and a sweet story behind it. It's almost like a love song. Like a tribute song, right? To a loved one, all right, but delivered in a funny comedic way, right? And this is super unique to Toy. So right, so I've been very proud. I've worked with him on a lot of his solo projects from back in with Sasa Chuma, right? We did right the Papa song as well, which was a song that was also recorded in a Mandarin version, right? And many more lah, right? So this is his brand new thing, right? Brand new song. So I'm going to run. Let's start by first of all taking a listen to the rough mix. Okay, everything was recorded here, right? You've got drums, bass. In fact, the drums and bass were played by Toy himself, right? He Like he plays his own drums on his own record. He plays the bass. He could play the guitar as well, right? But for some of these solo projects, he has actually I've been actually recording. I've been the one playing the guitar. So the guitars on this track are played by me, and obviously, right, the vocals are all Toy himself, lah. So let's take a listen to the overall rough mix. Right, we want to check out what the song structure is, what the song arrangement is like. We want to identify, where the different sections, the different parts, and make little mental notes of what we want to do around. So this was something that I've already done before this, and while we're doing it, I'll do a little running commentary. Okay, so here, without further ado, let's listen to a rough mix of Pishang. Here we go. Straight away to the intro. He's got this little riff going. Straight to the first verse. So this is the verse. This is the comedic element which I'm talking about. And the guitar riff just keeps going on. And then chorus. This is the B section, second half of the chorus. Really, really fun track to perform and to play. Second verse. Right? Dispenses with a lot of the fancy stuff and the fancy, intro, interludes, right? Super, super simple. Just drums, bass, and guitar. And second chorus. Well, with some big BBs on certain lines. Second half. There's a little synth line there, which is actually very interesting. I'll explain a little bit when we get to that part. And going to the bridge. Again, this song is meant to be fun. Don't take this so seriously, right? It's meant to be tongue in cheek. Bridge. And the words to this bridge is banana, okay? So and into the final chorus. Melody kicks up. And there you have it. That is the rough mix, okay? So, right. As I said, this song doesn't take itself so seriously. It's super, super fun. Structure-wise, extremely simple, right? Intro, verse, chorus, right? B section, middle 8, bridge, and right in the end chorus itself. Nothing super fancy about it. And not really fun doing this, right? Songs, doing this type of song without having to go to something, sometimes the songs can be just simple, right? We just want to have fun doing it and don't have to go anything too complicated. So there we go. Let's take a look at a couple of things first of all, right? Let's dive into it. First thing would be starting with a kick drum, okay? And one thing about starting with kick drum as well is very important because this is also where I set the initial level of the mix, okay? And that's very crucial, that's very important. In fact, I did a video really recently, right, on my YouTube channel. It's one of the episodes of Weekly Update Wednesdays. I suggest that you check it out, right, to find a little bit more detailed explanation as to how I do it, why I do it, all right, and also the benefits behind it, okay? But to cut things short, all right, so the kick has, and the snare actually, as you will notice down here later, has been, I've actually laid a drum sample underneath, okay? So again, this is meant to be like a very straightforward thing. So let's start with that, okay? So let me pull up the mixer view. So what do I mean by setting the initial levels, okay? So this is, okay, let's start with the kick drum itself. So this is the drums out there, the Yamaha Oak Custom. And first thing that I would put on every channel would be these couple of plugins here. The first thing I want to do is put in an instance of virtual tape machines. This is, okay, to simulate as if this was recorded on analog tape, okay, multi-track analog tape. So that is tape emulation and also console emulation as well. So this is virtual mix rack, and in here I've inserted two modules: virtual channel set to the SSL 4000 G series and FG73, right? This is a emulation of the Neve 1073 preamp. So what we're doing here is trying to emulate the signal flow, the signal path, as if it was recorded on analog tape going through a channel of an analog console. All right. Hey, by the way, if you are tuning in this right now, please do say hi in the chat so that I know that you're there. Don't be shy. I can see that there are a couple of concurrent viewers on board. All right. So please say hi, okay? Right? Don't be shy. Let me know where you are tuning in from, right? And whether you're back at work. I mean, this is like the first week back after a long Raya holidays, so hopefully, right, you all had a good time. So let's go back to the kick, and what we're trying to do is try and establish, right, the initial level. And how do I do that? I do that by trying to get the kick drum to peak on the master at minus 12 dBFS. So let me try and find this level first. Let me just pull up this edit window for the master. Okay, right, and actually there it is. You can see it here as well. So the goal is, right, we want this to peak at about minus 12 dBFS. Okay, so this will give me a good enough headroom in terms of enough headroom, right? So it doesn't clip, but also enough signal to noise ratio so that when the times come for mastering, there won't be any issues of noise lah. Okay, noise loss. So let's just listen to the kick only, and let's look at where it peaks. Okay, let me just. So it's kind of peaking at maybe the loudest hits at about minus 12.5, which is cool, which is exactly where we want it to be. Because later on, there's also the sample that will probably just, when I blend the sample in, you'll probably hit to about minus 12 exactly lah, right? Then we'll tweak along from here. So this is where I set my kick drum level. So there we go. Let's go back to the kick. Right. Let's set it to about 2.5. So first thing, let's hunt around the EQ. I'll do a little high pass at 20. And I just want to take out a little bit of all the low mid-range mud. And I'll do that, right, using the API 550. Right, this is the FGA, which is actually the API EQ emulation. So take out about 200. Okay, and take out also about 4 dB at 400 hertz. So essentially, this is like a dip that is centered at about 300 lah. Okay, basically that's what it's doing. Okay, so nice. See, it's got a nice scoop. Let's bypass. Yeah. So it's taking out all the low mid mud. Okay, right. So now there are some minor resonances which I want to dial in. So let's go with, yeah. Now this is using the stock Cubase EQ. Okay, here we go. So there's, at about 440, there's a little honky, almost like a plastic kind of a plasticky kind of honk there. Okay, and then there's something also between 135 to 140 hertz. Okay. Okay, so now let's drop in a little bit of compression, just a little bit with FG Dynamics. This is like the SSL Dynamics lah. Okay, ratio I would be 5 is good. 5 is good already. Let's just keep it at the standard setting first. So let's just play with the threshold. Bypass. Yeah, so now it's a little flabby. That's a lot tighter. Okay, and we're probably looking at about 2 or 3 dB of gain reduction here. Okay, bypass. Okay, there's also a little bit of gain boost, so let me just compensate. Right, so make sure that we are not fooling ourselves. Okay, bypass the compressor. So much better. It's like tight now, okay? So there's a little bit of bleed, but really seriously, honestly, this bleed doesn't bother me, right? And let's maybe try and hunt where that bleed is. This bleed is coming from mainly the snare. About 290. There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So the other thing that I would usually do with the close kick drum mics, right? Any of the close mic drums is I would like to put a little bit of limiter here. Okay, so this is Little Clipper, the one that I love to use from Boss Audio Labs. This is just going to capture the loudest peaks. Okay, yeah, and it's not even going to be triggering at all, just at the very loudest, the accents, that's all, just catching those super loud transients. Oh, there you go. Yeah, especially there near the drum fill, and that's it. That's what we got. All right, now let's blend in. Now let's listen to the sample. So this was taken from Steven Slate drums. So this is a Ludwig 24. Okay, so now I'm going to be relying very much on the live drums, and this sample is just going to go underneath it to give it a little bit of support. That's all that it's doing. But I got to make a little bit of room for it so that it's not going to overwhelm, especially the low end. So you have the dynamics, the natural dynamics of the live kick, but you also have the solid, stable, the stable platform, right? The stable foundation, which is provided by the sample. So this one, okay, this one's definitely a little bit. $200. You're gonna take out quite a bit of 200, okay, and just blend it in. Okay, let's go back to the start of the song. Okay, now let's do a flip the polarity. There we go. Okay, that's much better. And let's check back the what the peak meter is giving. So now it's kind of giving us at about, yes, some of the loudest peaks are at 12. Okay, and I think I'm pretty good with this. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Okay, so this 12 dBFS, again, it's not really a rule. All right, I've explained it in my video, so probably I don't want to explain it in too great of a length, lah. But basically, this is what you want to hit. Okay, you can hit a little bit lower, a little bit higher if you want. If you want to aim for -8 dBFS, this is okay. You want to aim for -10, you want to aim for -14. It's up to you. Okay, but the way I calibrate my speakers and how I've calibrated my system, I aim for about -12 dBFS. Okay, so there we go. Kick drum is done. So next thing is, and you'll be surprised, I am not going with the I'm not gonna go with the close-in mics, but instead I love to build my drum sound from top down. Okay, so once I've established the foundation of where the kick drum should be, then I will blend everything else to that. And the next thing I'll do is the overheads. Okay, so let's blend that in. Here we go. There we go, all right? Straightforward. Okay, now there might be a slight little imbalance in the left and right, but let's try to do that by maybe just pumping up the gain on the right hand side by about a dB maybe. Let's go back to nice. Okay, that should do it just fine. Okay, so let's solo the. Okay, this is the overhead, so there's a little bit of low mid muck here. This is actually real tricky because it's actually quite close to where the fundamental of the drums is. Okay, right? So there we go. So it has taken out a little bit of the bottom of the snare drum on the overheads, but it cuts it out. So it's a bit of a compromise, I suppose. But I won't worry about it too much because when I bring back in the close mic, that will bring back in the low end, right, for the snare. Okay, so next thing I would love to put on overheads is this little thing. This is actually the AOC's E2 de-esser. And de-essers are super handy, useful tools. Okay, it's not only used for de-essing on vocals, but because of its nature, right, you can always dial it in to treat any sort of harsh frequency. So in this case, right, this one is actually a preset called OH Soften, and what this is going to do is just going to gently tame, right, some of the cymbal crashes and especially the overheads are cymbal crashes, the hi-hats, right, and all that. And all it's doing is just that. Only a couple of dB, right, as you can see, as it acts every time it crashes. Just a few dB, just tucking down that high. And that's it, right? Super simple, okay? Okay, let's pull in now the close mics. So let's start off first of all with the snare drum. So snare A, this is a dynamic microphone, so let's check it out. Right, and of course I have to unmute the master group. So it's a bit of a bottom. So nice. This is like a low-tuned, fat snare. Now there is a little bit of hi-hat bleed in it. So again, not too big of a deal. Just just filter the top out. Okay, let's listen to it. So a bit of that kick drum coming in at right, so it's resonating a little bit at about 100. Okay, but the fundamental is just above it at about 180, so maybe I have to bring that back in later on. Okay. Okay, and at about 800, let's take that out. Nice. Okay, it's very, very natural sound. So let's go on. So snare B, this is actually a condenser. Okay, so again, I have these videos already that's on my channel. This is under the Direct Access Music Production Workshop playlist. There's a video in there which talks about drum recording techniques. So snare B, this is actually a condenser. So this is going to give a little bit more top end detail. I don't mind just top shaving off a little bit of it. And it's got little at about 780, and that's it. All right, super simple. Nice. Okay, let me link the two together. So it's very common, right? It's just another technique recording where you blend a dynamic and a condenser and multi-miking technique, and then you blend the two of them in. Okay, so let's go. Snare bottom. Okay, so snare bottom, not much. The snare bottom actually is to, obviously you want to, it's to capture the rattle of the snare wires. Okay. But this is actually more, the way that I think of the snare bottom is more like an EQ. So if, let's say, I want to brighten up the snare, it's just a matter of just bringing up the snare bottom, right, which increases the sound of the snare wire, and you know, it gives it the apparent bite and the snap to it. So let's just blend it in. Invert polarity. Okay, right, that takes out a bit of low end. Nice. It's kind of getting to where I like it already, so you know, let's go on now with the snare sample. So same thing, right? The concept of how I'm treating the drums with the samples is just there to enhance what is already there, okay? Right. So right, Toy is also right. Even though he says it's not his first instrument, not even his like second or third instrument, right? But like Toy can handle the recording, right? The drums on his own tracks, no issues. So this one is also another sample. Okay, so just getting out this wrist ring at 660. There's another one at the bottom, but let's see whether it does it bother or not. Okay, this just. There you go. Just blending it in, okay? Let me try flipping the polarity. Oh yeah, flipping the polarity definitely, right, gives a little bit more bottom end to it. Sounds better that way. So let's go. Hi-hat. Okay. Super simple. In fact, I don't really think need that much of hi-hat in the... Okay, there we go. Let me cut. The majority of the sound is really coming from the overheads already. So this is just to fill it in, to give it a little bit more better localization. I just noticed one thing. I think I might have had the left and right overhead switched around. So let me just quickly, right, fix that and switch that back around, right? Could be a wiring thing, could be a cabling thing, but no big deal. There we go. Now it makes more sense. Because just now the hi-hat was kind of like spread out. While my close mic was to my left, but on the overheads it was slightly heavy to the right at some part. So I was just wondering, was it a gain issue or some other issue lah? Okay, but looks like right, it's sorted right now. There we go. Right, so let's move on to toms. Okay, let's look for a section with the toms, like, okay, with the good tom. There we go. So this got a nice little roll here. So same thing also goes with the toms, but with toms, first thing that I'll always do, make it a habit, check the polarity, okay? You never know. Okay, let's loop this section. Okay, invert polarity. Interesting. Very interesting. So when I flip the two, when it was in its original polarity, it seems to be slightly, I would say it's got a little bit, slightly fuller overall. But when I flipped it, there is definitely some phase cancellation. But this phase cancellation caused the fundamental, it caused the low end of this first tom, right, to feel a little bit more solid, which, right, in this case, that's probably what we want. Okay, so it's always good to always explore the polarity because of the incredible the tonal differences that it can introduce, and you'll never know, right? So even though I recorded this, and during recording, right, we'll always make it a habit. Let's check the phase, check the polarity, right, of all the various close mics in relation to the overheads. But in mixing, sometimes in context of the entire mix, sometimes when it is technically wrong, in this case, right, when I flip the polarity here on the first tom, you get some phase cancellation, but the end result is that the fundamental actually sounds a little bit stronger, a little bit louder. So again, right, do make it a habit. Just flip your polarity, check, and you sometimes be surprised by what comes out. Okay, so there we go. So that's what we do. Let me take a quick sip. Once again, please, if you're watching this right now, don't be shy, okay, right? I can see there are some concurrent viewers that are on board. Please, right? There's a live chat going on right there. Please say hi. Let me know if you're there in the chat, okay? Where you're watching from and all that, okay? And I'll make sure that I'll read out your comments, what you type out in the chat also, and I'll also shout out to you. And if you have questions, please, this is meant to be an interactive thing. If you see something, right, or if you hear something that you want to find out a little bit more, please leave the questions down, right? Either live right now in the chat or in the comments, okay? Right? If you're watching this on a replay, and I will always be more than happy to get back to you on this. So let's go back to the toms. So checking with the overheads has revealed very interesting things, okay? Right? So let's go back to the tom. So let's take out. Okay, so we go. So it's got a lot of muck at about 270. Okay, and then there's another. Around 420, 430. It's bypass. So there's actually one more region here which is being caused, I think, by the kick drum. So let me just check it out and see, okay? And okay, to be honest, doesn't bother me too much. I think we can deal with it by widening the Q on this. And I think I see someone in the chat, okay? Let me widen the Q. So let me just put a little bit boost on the fundamental. Just a tiny bit. Alright, this is at about 110 hertz. And we have, hi, Zachariah Henry, right right? Shout out to you, man. Zach says, "Hi, I'm back." Welcome back, man. Did you go somewhere? And when you say "I'm back," means that did you go somewhere? And hope you had a good holiday, man. Right, back from Hari Raya last week. Thank you so much, okay, for tuning in. And folks, Zachariah here is also one of the patrons, right? Who are supporting the creation of content and the videos on this channel. Really, really appreciate it, right? Big shout out and a thank you to you. Okay, let's get back to where we were. Okay, so that is your first tom. Let's verify with the entire mix. Very nice, okay? Right, nice and solid. So let's go right with the floor tom right now. Let's repeat the same process, okay? Let's check the polarity, right? Okay, flip it. Very interesting. Okay, in this case, sticking back to the original seems to work the best, okay? Right? A little bit more fuller all around, okay? In terms of the bottom end. So here we go. Let's cycle the floor tom. Okay, so at about 190. And then you have that little honky. Also at about 600, 620 hertz. And there we go. Nice. Okay, so let's check out this section. Sweet. There we go. Okay, very cool. So now let's check out, right, the room mics next. So this track, I think I was experimenting with and recently I'm always experimenting with miking, different miking arrays and miking positions lah. Yeah, for most of the close mic stuff, you don't really stray too far away. And even throughout the years, overheads, sometimes I've gone from, the regular AB space pair. It's very seldom that I use XY. Very often also I also use Glyn Johns, right? A modification of the Glyn Johns technique. But the room mics is where I've been experimenting a lot. And I think this was one of the earlier tracks recently which I've been playing and messing around with MS recording. And what is MS? Okay, so now actually an MS is short for mid-side recording, and this you need two microphones. One, you need okay, this can be done. This can be either be condenser or dynamics lah, but usually, actually, for matter of fact, sometimes it can be even a combination of both. And I think what I used here, right, is a 80-40-50 as my mid mic. So this mid mic is a cardioid, and this one points towards the sound source, okay? Right, this is what the sound source is. So it's a combination of a cardioid, right, as the middle, and then you have a figure of 8 microphone perpendicular at 90 degrees, okay, to the mid side, to the mid microphone. So this will, right, so you imagine you have the mid capturing the front, and then you have the figure 8 turned 90 degrees capturing the sides, right, the two lobes, right, of the figure 8 capturing the sides. And through the combination of, right, what you do is that you have to make a duplicate of the side mic. So one will be called positive and one will be called the negative, right? And on the second one, you have to invert the polarity. And this is very interesting. MS is very, very cool, right? Let's just listen to just a solo mic, right? And then I'll show you what I mean. This is the solo, the mid microphone. Okay, the mid microphone. And I'll show you what is the side microphones. Okay. Now, if you're listening on headphones and speakers now, this is going to sound very out of phase, okay? right? Because it's literally it's right, it's 180 degree inverted polarity. But the cool thing is when you blend it with this in, right? The and then the sum and the difference, right, of the two, of the mid and the side microphones, the side will act as the stereo. So the more stereo width that you want to add, you just bring up the sides. Okay, so okay, I'll show you. So let's start by just listening to the mid, and here you will have a mono room microphone. All right, mono. And then once I bring in the sides, right, the side information, you start to hear the stereo image grow until, right, you know, as much as you want lah. So all right, here we go. All right, listen to this mono. I'm going to bring in a little bit of the sides, and you hear it's getting wider, 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 all the way to the stereo. Turn it back again, bring it down, it'll be more mono. So MS is actually really powerful, okay, because it gives you the flexibility of, right, the mono compatibility, but also gives you the option of, right, the stereo width and adding the stereo width to it as well. So how I'm going to do this, what I'm actually going to do with this is I want to play around with this stereo width during the mix, okay? So this means that during the verses, I want to keep the drum image a little bit centered, a little bit narrow of this room, but when the chorus kicks in, I want it to be a lot bigger, a lot wider, and I'm going to do it by automating the sides. So let's just set a baseline first for the mid, the room. Okay, mute it. Not much actually. Right, not too much actually. Right, so for this the mid, I think I've already high passed everything at about 6.7K, right? Because we don't need too much of the top end information, but just let's listen to. Okay, let's EQ out a little bit more. Take out a bit of 750. Bottom end is fine, okay? So when it kicks into the chorus, I want the sides to be back to be up, right? And I think I'm gonna do this by using a VCA. Let me unlink this first, okay? Let me unlink this first, and let me just bring this up, okay? Let's go to the chorus lah, for example. Okay, here's the chorus. Okay, so there we go, right? So okay, and then the chorus just becomes bigger. Okay, let's set it at that, and let me just put a VCA, add a VCA to this, and there we go. All right, okay. Room sides. Okay, so room sides. So this is gonna, let's have it down here first. So very mono. Yeah, so in the verses it's mono. Okay, let's automate this. And voila, so it kicks up. Okay, actually it shouldn't ramp up lah. Keep it a little bit smoother. I'll just do a little ramp up here like this. So 1 bar ramp up here. So you hear that the drum, the room, right, is a bit mono. Then when it gets in the chorus, it grows slightly bigger. Okay, so it's very cool dynamic effect. There you go. So now the drum suddenly has got bigger, it's a little bit wider, and later on with all the additional parts and the guitars, it makes sense also, okay? Okay, so let's go to, so when it gets back to, all right, so back down to, all right, mono room. Back down here. Okay, let's copy these settings over and let's do the same for the next chorus lah. Okay, here we go. There we go. At bar 56, all the way up. It's 1 bar. Okay, so suddenly the room becomes wider again. Okay, right, so okay, so this one's a little bit trickier. I got to modify this a little bit. So this one getting into the bridge, right? This will be a much shorter. Da 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 da. Alright, back to mono. And then here, same thing. Okay, at bar 80, right? Ramp it back up. Okay, of course, this one, right? All the way to the end lah. Okay, so there we go. We've just automated the sides, okay, for this room. So it goes from mono, wide, and then right, ends up wide all the way to the end. So very, very cool. You can check it out, right? Try and experiment and see. Now I have one more track here, which is the room SSD. So this is taken from the Steven Slate drum sample. So what I'm gonna do with this is I'm really gonna smash this out, okay? And the one I've used a lot of times is Pulsar. So let's try Pulsar out. In fact, actually I want to try something a little different today, right? And something that's been cool, I've been exploring a couple of times. That is actually Parallel Aggressor. Let's check out Parallel Aggressor, right? So this one, I want to go with literally, okay, a spanked drum bass. So let's check it out. Okay, so let's take the dry level down. Okay, that's a bit too much. Turn up the heat. Okay, heat style. Let's go. There we go. All right. I want to just really be aggressive with this. In fact, distorting it a little bit even. So let's check it out how it would sound in context. Very cool, all right? Okay, let's bring it down just a little bit. And I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ride this super compressed, super dirty room sample and ride it when we get into the chorus. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Very cool, right? So literally like a 10 dB boost here. So same thing, similar kind of sort of the idea with what I did with the room microphones. Okay, so just bring this up. This is bringing a lot more grit, a slightly distorted sound. Suddenly it's become a lot more energetic, right? Very, very cool. Okay. Okay, right. So this will be a short. Okay, this will be back down to the level, which is 20 dB. Actually, it needs to be. Okay, right. So actually, it needs to stop there. Okay, right. In fact, this means that even the where I position the this one for the sides also needs to be tweaked. Let me do that first of all. Yeah, because when it kicks back in there, it's already should already be monoed out lah. So okay, let me just tweak this. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's rinse and repeat. Let's do the same thing. So this is building dynamics just by right, introducing, adding, playing around with the MS, with the mono, with MS, and then adding in the distorted and super hyper compressed drums. So there we go. There you have it. So last thing with the drums that I would also want to put is a little bit of compression, right? So I don't do a lot of actually before we do that, let me go back to this snare first, okay? Right, because I want to drop in the limiter as usual, just in case lah, okay? Always, this is something that I will find very, very handy. So this one is gonna go, I know that towards the end of the song, there's some parts which yeah, I just want to catch those, right? Especially those really, really the hardest hits. That's it. Yeah, just that's it. Right? Super transparent. Very interesting. All right. Okay. So last but not least, right? Let's add in the drum compression. Okay. I usually have to compensate this, and let's play around with the threshold, okay? Alright, bring the threshold to about 2. Okay, let me change the attack time. Very nice. Bypass. Very nice. Okay, right. So now I've set it to about 1 millisecond attack time, but just to let the transient come through a little bit. Again, this is something that I may tweak later on, depending on how everything fits in when the rest of the track comes in. So there you have it. One more thing that I want to do. Okay, let's add in a little bit of the reverb, and the reverb here is from Reverence. So Reverence is built in. This is stock, right? This is a stock plugin that's in the Cubase, and I'm going to import this. Let me import from my Reverb IR libraries. Here we go. Impulse responses. Yamaha SPX 990. Right, the one that I favorite, that I love to use. Right, snare. All right, the snare plate. So it's a setting, right, that's on the actual hardware Yamaha SPX 990 lah. Hello, concurrent viewers. We got a few more people that are there. Please, hey, do say hi in the live chat. Let me know that you are tuning in, watching this. Okay. All right. So where were we? We were on the reverb. So the reverb here, I'm actually sending the reverb from the overheads. This is something which I picked up, right, watching how Chris Lord Alger does his mixes, and it was a very interesting thing, and I've been using it, right, a couple of times, quite often already. Right, so this gives the space, but does not draw away, does not take away from the right? The directness, the in your faces of the, first of all, the samples and also the close in mics lah. All right, so this would be interesting. So let's check out how it sounds. Okay, this is probably a bit too much. Yeah, so let's just dial it back down. Okay, very cool. All right, that's all we need. So let me pull up the channel for the EQ. Let's solo, right? Listen to just the drum EQ itself, the drum reverb itself. Okay, I'm gonna need to EQ this. At about 1.1K. And about 650. There we go. Nice. All right, so there we go. That's drums. Let's move on then. Bass. Okay, so bass, same thing, right? You have the tape and you have the console emulation plugins there. High pass at 20. So this bass here is a combination, right? I record with two tracks. One is through a radial, right? The JDI. This gives me a very clean sound. And the second track here, down here, this is, right, TH, right? Stands for tone hammer. So this is recording through the Aguilar tone hammer preamp. It gives me a little bit more character. So let's just blend the two. All right, okay. So as you can tell, right, or as I can tell, right, I've actually already done a little bit of pre-processing during the tracking already, because the way that I see it, especially when it comes to digital nowadays, you're kind of mixing as you go along, you know. It really helps with the production decisions when you commit to sounds really early on. So for example, right, if we talk about the drums, the choice of using the MS, right, miking, right, helps me to commit and know what I'm gonna do later on in the mix. Even down to the tuning of the snare, right? This is definitely tuned low to give you that kind of a fat, kind of a retro, slightly vintage kind of a sound. And even during the recording of the bass, right, I don't leave it until the end during the mix stage to make some of these decisions. So I've already done some of it here. So let me just run you through some of these. I probably need to tweak. So the first things first. Now both of these channels, right, the DI track and also the tone hammer track are both being routed to this bass group. Okay, right. We call it groups in Cubase. Pro Tools users will probably call it auxes. So the first thing I have there, this is Wave C4. This is a multi-band compressor, and the only band that's actually active is this low band here. And what it does is that this one just controls and massages the actual bottom end. It's usually around 180 below. So let me just solo this, and you hear this is the range of frequencies that we're talking about. So the actual meat and the foundation of the low end, right? Not all the upper harmonics, the mid range, okay? So doing this really helps to control, and later on, the next stage of compression, it does not make the compressor work too hard. So it smoothens out the bottom. Nice. Already pretty good the way that I've said it. So now the next thing here, this is Surfer EQ, right? For frequent viewers will already know this is very cool plugin, right? This is the Focusrite edition. If you own Focusrite gear, or I think any gear which is under the Focusrite group, which means like Novation lah, etc., I think this plugin is accessible for free. You can go and download it from the website. Okay, so check it out. So what this does is that I'm just going to dial this in to tune out some of the upper harmonics. Okay, so Usually the fifth. Even the seventh, I think. Let's bring this down. Yeah, so every time it's triggering, it's going to be making a cut at around the seventh harmonic, which you can see here is about, depending on the note. This helps to clean up lah. Clean up, it helps to make the root a little bit more defined as well. So moving on, next thing. 1176, and I already dialed this in already, so just check it out. Fairly aggressive, okay? Right? But I'm really preferring using this to get a little bit of more energy and grit out of it. Let me just bypass. So see, this one is a little bit flabby, a little bit clean. This adds a little bit of bite to it, all right? Besides evening it out. Okay, right, and this was all played by Toila himself, okay? So super cool. It's really cool when you have someone who really knows how to play the bass. Unlike me, I'm not really a bass player. So now the next thing, Bass Rider. Let me activate this. So this is another cool plugin which all you get to do, right, is to just set the target level, and it really helps to ride the level of this bass. It basically just to even it out, okay? So you can see this rider here, it moves accordingly, and this behaves differently from compression because this is a look ahead process. This is as if somebody, right, is able to react to the volume changes really quickly, even faster than the compressor. Because the compressor, traditional compressor, it will wait for the signal to exceed the threshold, then only it, right, clamps down and applies the gain reduction. Not Bass Rider, okay? So just dial it in. It's really simple. Hit the target and you can see, right, it's doing its job. It's dancing it around. So not much. We kind of just wanted to see it only half, and this really evens it out lah. Okay, you don't want to see too much drastic jumps here, but you can see it's doing its job. Okay, very cool. Now let's move on. Next thing, another thing in the arsenal. This is MV2, one of my favorite plugins, man. So what this is gonna do is I'm going to use this. Yes, it's going to be a little bit of compression, but this one is more of it's going to introduce a little bit of expansion parallel and a little bit of parallel compression inside. And this is to bring out all the detail and all the energy, okay, right? The excitement that's in the bass, just to make it a little more energy lah, and more energetic. So let's bring this up. Things like the finger detail. Okay, obviously it's also getting louder, right? So we got to compensate so that we can have equal volume comparison. Let's bring it up about 5 dB. But now it's much more solid, you know. And this is a great plugin, man. MV2, so simple to use. It's just only got 3 controls, right? Okay, now let's listen in context. Alright, okay. So some of the things that some notes that Toy has mentioned to me is that some of these ghost note things, right, needs to be toned down a little bit. And I'll do that, right, later in the mix-up. But some of these things too. Yeah, and Zach says, cool, Bass Rider, yeah. Well, Waves always has the plugin sales, so, you know, when it's time, you know, go get it at $29 lah. Alright. Alright, cool. So I'm going to show you one little automation trick which you can use. I actually done it quite a lot. Let me take a little sip of coffee. Thanks for the comment, Zach. How you doing, man? It's been a while since how's your work? How's the family been? Hopefully everything is good. So, right, let's go back to where was I saying? So, some of the automation tricks when it comes to bass. So, one of these things which I like to do is I like to automate a little bit of an EQ boost every time we get into a chorus. Because at the chorus, right, when everything builds up, you're supposed to be energy wise, you have added a little bit more parts, right? That's supposed to be the climax and the highlight of the song. lah. So sometimes what we forget is that yeah, we add a lot of parts on top. We add more layers and high frequency stuff. In fact, later on, I feel that I will probably put in some percussion loops as well, right? In the chorus, maybe a tambourine or shaker. Or maybe in the verse also. We'll see how, but that a decision that I'll make later. But one of the things that I find really helpful is that when you get into the chorus, not only do you want all the mid range and high frequency stuff to sort of bloom and go bigger, but don't forget about the bottom end, your low end, your bass also. You kind of also want it to grow accordingly. So you don't have to do anything super massively different, right? Simple thing is just a 1 dB shelf here. I'll show you. Activate. It's just a very, very gentle 1 dB shelf set at about 100 hertz. So every time it kicks into the chorus, right? Let's automate this, and I will engage this 1 dB shelf. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So this is going to be very subtle, just to make the bottom end just a little bit more, slightly more weight when it kicks into the chorus. You see, right? And as you can guess it, this will drop out when we get back out of the chorus lah. Okay. And Zach says, "All good. Busy with construction matters a few weeks ago." All right, man. That's good to know. Working on any music projects? I hope you have got time. Okay, so this comes out here, back into this little interlude and into the right. It's been a while, man, since we had done some of our face-to-face tutorials. If there's some stuff that you have been working on, please feel free to share it. Okay, right, so coming out, second chorus, and then okay, going into the bridge, and this will pretty much all the way to the end of the song lah. Okay, except for maybe the very end, I think. Yeah. Yeah, okay, cutting out here. Okay, right. Okay, I got to remember to also, yeah, got to cut down the room sides here as well. Da 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 da. Yeah. Okay. Let's deal with the sides first. Don't forget, because otherwise, the size is not appropriate. You see, it's still it becomes too big. Let's bring this down back to, where were we? 20 dB, right? Minus 20, and this should be at minus 10. Let's listen to it again. Yeah, back to the slightly tighter. In fact, I think these room sides, not the sides, I think the SSD could go down maybe a little bit more, like, could not say a little bit, quite a bit, like 25, like 5 dB or so. Because otherwise it sounds a little bit too gritty. Very cool. And there you have it. So drums and bass is done, right? Okay, Zachariah says, working some voiceovers for ebook. Hey, that's interesting. All right, that's super super interesting. I recently did also an ebook project, an educational project as well. That was a very very intensive job, right? I think it was like 11,000 words or so. It took three engineers a total of 4 days each editing to finish, and both rooms were running. Studio A was editing, Studio B was also editing. I think we took like and each of them took 4 days to finish the editing work. All right, hey, if you need any help with voiceover stuff, okay, let me know as well if you need some tips or some help as well. Because I think you also need to know if you're delivering stuff for all these platforms. You need to deliver it at the right appropriate level, at the correct level, and the correct loudness levels lah. So anyway, all right, I digress. Let's go back to the mix. All right, and let's move on to the guitars. So now these guitars, as I mentioned earlier, these were all played by myself, yours truly. And the cool thing, right, the cool thing here is that these are actually guitars which are all recorded direct. Okay, so no amp because it was just me alone. So to keep things simple for me, all right, I just recorded this direct and ran it through the amp simulators. So let me show you what amp sims I'm using. So it's very simple, just a left and right, and this is going through THU, right? Overloud THU by Slate. Okay, Zach says there. Sure, thank you, JD. All right, no, you're most welcome, man. So there we go. Let's solo this guitar. Now, so I recorded this with a Strat, right? So this was a Strat single coil with the neck pickup, because I was going for more like I would say maybe a bit more Tom Morello-ish kind of a tone, right? So this is just a basically a Strat neck pickup with a tube screamer into a Marshall. So I'll solo this guitar for you to listen. Right? So super straightforward, very, very, very simple. Okay, let me just tweak around with this automation here. I think here it's supposed to be centered first of all. There we go. Let me just put the right hand side. Okay, right. So I think both guitars, both sides are slightly different. Let's explore what's on the right hand side. And the right side is, yeah, okay, slightly different, okay? So this one goes through, it's also going through the JCM 900, but with a slightly different channel, right? Ah, yeah, okay, so there we go. So that's where the difference is. So the left is more of a Marshall Plexi, and the one on the right is a JCM, all right? So slightly both are Marshalls, but both are dialed in slightly different tones. Same guitar was a Strat on the neck pickup, right? And this was the tone that I was gunning for. So let's listen to it with the drums and the bass. Super simple. There we go. Okay, right. So there's this little part here. This is like a little unison bend, right? So same thing. Yeah. It's not really a unison bend. Da, da, da. Yeah, it's I really can't remember. Da. Yeah, it is a unison bend lah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Again, for chromatic effect. And honestly, that's all, because the tone is really dialed in right. All right. Okay. So there's some things that maybe I want to point out, right? Maybe in case you're interested. So the verse starts off more of a single note pattern. So this is all single note. Then when you get to the second half, it goes into power chords. Okay. All right. Fifths lah. Just to build up dynamics. And then obviously during the chorus, right, this is all just driving power chords. All right, so there we go. Let's skip all the rest of the guitars first, and let's jump to the chorus, okay, which is obviously, right, the most important thing. Okay, so let's check out. Okay, I have something here dialed in with the meta tune. Am I using some of this? Okay, right. Let's just keep this in mind. But let me just pull and drop in my usual vocal processing chain, and here we go. Let me turn on virtual mix rack first. Okay, good. Let's blend this in, set the level. Chorus. Right, turn on the lead vocal group. Yeah, obviously some things are turned on. Let me turn off all of these first, okay? And in fact, let me just turn off even some of all these, the effects and reverb. Because again, when I was recording, right, we go record as we go along and we dial in all the sounds as close as what we wanted the mix to sound already. Alright, so here we go. Alright, let's go into TDR Nova first of all. As usual, this is the one of my favorite plugins, the Dynamic Parallel Contrast EQ. Let's take out some of the bottom end. Okay, right, so just a little bit of nasal honk. At about 890, 900 hertz. Okay, let's activate the dynamic function. Let's go into wide band mode, 3-to-1 ratio, fastest attack, and fastest release. Okay, right? Alright, yeah, very good. Let's took out a little bit of that nasal honk there. So now there's just this little bit. And about 3.9K, right? So let's cut that out, unsolo it, threshold, wideband mode, and let's just dial in.
Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah.
Alright, okay, so I'm going to also pull in smooth operator just to give it a little bit of subtle, a little bit more smoothing out. So let's check it out.
Ku tahu kau pasti yang terbaik buatku, naluriku kata
Okay,
begitu.
so this one is a bit of a mud. Right, just get rid a little bit of the.
Sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku.
Okay, and then also just a little bit.
Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah.
At about 3K.
Yang terbaik
Get out of surah.
buatku, naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Alright, very cool. So let me show you next tape again, virtual tape machines. But the next thing that I have slightly different when it comes to vocals is that instead of the FG73, I put in like Hollywood virtual tube collection. So this one, instead of a solid state FG like the 1073, this one is more of an actual tube preampler. So this is going to give a little bit more, slightly more saturation to it. All right. Alright, okay, very cool. So sibilance next, right? This one just a little de-esser. We have one de-esser at the front stage.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku, naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi.
Okay, very cool, right? Just cuts out. It's at the back portion of the chorus here.
Ke hujung nyawaku, idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati. Hingga ke hujung nyawaku, idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah. Ku tahu.
Okay, alright. So now, last but not least, this is an instance. This is the Waves, a Renaissance compressor. This is also doing something very subtle. This is just catching the peaks, right? And this is never going to be more than 1 dB of gain reduction. Okay, right. So now I'm just hearing a little bit of another honkiness here. So let me just deal with this first, okay? All right, okay. Peaking filter. Actually, it's there. It's still there, but okay, this means so maybe a little bit slightly wider Q and a little bit longer release.
Naluriku kata begitu, biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik.
Alright, there we go, okay? So there is the chorus, right? Vocal. And this is all going to be sent to the vocal group. So this is where I had some of the processing earlier. So some of the creative processing here that takes place. This will be at 1176. Let's dial this in. So it's cool, level, all that is good, but this is, I just want to drive and get a little bit more energy out of it.
Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu, impianku sejak ketemu. Ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekal until jannah.
Okay, right, so we got to dial in a little bit of like another de-esser after this.
Tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu, impianku sejak ketemu. Ku kan menjagamu
Very nice, very cool. So now a bit of a pull tech.
hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati.
Right, okay, rolling off some of the, right, attenuating it a little bit off the top, right, at 20k. And let's look for
Semoga berkekal until jannah. Ku
just
tahu
adding a bit of bottom.
yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu, impianku sejak ketemu.
Right, now for the guitars, right, just to give a little bit of space for the vocal, just gonna dip the, actually, in fact, I already did it. I already dipped the guitars here, right? So maybe just a tad more.
Ku kan menjagamu
Right, just to dip at about 3k and just make it a little bit wider.
hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekal until jannah.
Right, okay. So this might be, okay, let's play around with the attack.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu, impianku sejak ketemu. Ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekal until jannah.
Alright, okay. So one of the byproducts of, right, all this compression, that it's definitely brought up some of the transients, right, some of the consonants especially. So I have to go in, right, and the best way to deal with it, lah, right, is to, even though I backed off a little bit on the attack, right, so there has a slightly faster attack to catch some of those transients. The best way actually is I'll have to go in, all right, and in fact, this gives me better control. I'll have to go in and, right, manually, right, trim and edit some of this out. So for example,
Berkekal until jannah.
the kekalan,
Semoga berkekalan.
kekalan, right? When you get to that, it's better, right? It's these transients that are getting through. You see, better to go in and just dial it down. Okay,
Kekalan.
kekalan, right? Just a little fade in will do, just to ease back a little bit on those transients, so it's to soften them up a little bit.
Semoga berkekal until jannah. Semoga berkekal.
Okay, all right. In fact, you can take a look here, right? This is part of editing as well. You can actually probably go in and just chop away some of that, the initial, you know, that K consonant sounds.
Kekal until jannah. Semoga berkekal until jannah.
There you go. It's a little bit better.
Semoga berkekal until jannah. Ku tahu
And this is way more effective than using any plugin, right? Just go in and edit, right? It gives a little more cleaner result. In fact, some of the the S's and breaths and all that, I've already gone through it, but I'll probably need to go through with a little bit more, with a finer tooth comb later on, because once you apply all this the processing, sometimes it will exaggerate, right, some of these transients and all this stuff. All right, super cool. All right, let's move on with some of the effects. Actually, no, we still have the vocal rider. So same with bass rider. This is, right, we have the similar treatment also for vocals. Okay, so let's find the target value.
tahu kau pastinya
I got to increase the range.
Naluriku kata begitu, biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekal until jannah.
In fact, what I just did was I just muted and turned the hi-hat all the way down. It's more than good enough coming from the overheads already, man.
Bersiap, tunggu lama kena sidai.
All right, so that was the verse. Okay, we'll tackle the verse in a while later. Okay, so back to the chorus vocal. Let's dial in and just bring in a little bit of the effects. First effect will be super tap, and what I like to do is just to give it a sense of space right inside the nice sounding wood room.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Okay, and I need to turn on. Okay, let me get where the effects. There we go. All right, otherwise you won't hear it.
Naluriku kata begitu.
Now you can hear a little bit of it, but let me exaggerate it so you have an idea of what this is doing.
Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu.
So this is a bit too much, okay? But this is basically what it is. What super tap is doing here in this case, it is only a single delayed repeat, right? Obviously it's a left and right. It's two taps, right? But the key thing is that there's no feedback. We're not trying to hear repeated echoes out of this, just one single reflection. And very importantly, the EQ. Right, this here has a low pass filter at about 1.5K. So basically, right, everything above 1.5K gets rolled off. So it's very, very dark sounding, as if it's like in a nice wood-ish kind of room, right? So here we go. So just dial it in to where you can just sense it.
Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu.
And where we're hearing some effects, so the overheads are still ringing.
Hingga ke hujung nyawaku, idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekal until jannah. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Yeah, so at about here, about -3. Next one, let's bring in a mono delay first of all.
Naluriku kata begitu, biarlah ku menjadi.
Okay, this mono delay is going to be a short delay set to eighth notes, right? So it's a mono, so it's down the middle. This is just to give it a front to back, right, dimension.
Di bapa pada anakmu, impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu.
Right, and I believe, right, that when we get to the chorus, here, let me just mute the mute the verse first. Okay, when we get to the chorus, as usual, for dynamics, we want to, right, make it interesting. We kick in with a stereo delay here, alright? So let's check it out. And I've automated. Right, okay, so there we go. So let's take a listen to this stereo delay. Alright, and come on, FX channel. Alright.
Naluriku kata begitu.
There we go. So this stereo delay also the same plugin, but this time it's set to quarter notes, so it's slower, right? So the mono delay was 8 notes. This is set to quarter notes, okay? And I'm going to put a bit of ducking to it so that it doesn't clutter up the mix. So it's going to duck out of the way. Only when it stops does the delay come back out lah. All right. Okay, so we've had this automated already dialed in. Once again, this was something that I already did during the tracking session. So some of the kukan still a little bit hard. Again, one more, I have to edit, right, and just soften those consonants a little bit more. All right, so I'm going to drop in a little bit of doubler on this song. I'm not going to use the vocal thickening trick, right? Because it's supposed to be a little bit more raw, a little more raucous kind of a sound. So I'm not going for a much more polished pop treatment, like you say if I were doing this on a ballad, okay? But I will still engage and use doubler, right? In this case, let's dial in. I will do doubler EQ'd. So this one will take out a lot of the bottom end. This is still gonna enable to give it a little bit of dimension, a little bit of thickening, but not as, it's a different way of doing it lah.
Hingga ke hujung nyawaku.
Okay, obviously this is too much. Just dial in
Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati.
just a tiny touch.
Semoga berkekalan til jannah. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu.
Okay, in fact, let me bring in MV2 on the vocal as well, right? Because it's such a fast vocal, right? As in, the tempo is fast, it's got a lot of syllables. So sometimes a little bit of the energy does get a little, it was one of the things that during the recording, Toy was kind of struggling a bit lah. There's so many syllables and it's fast. So MV2 here, let's see, it should help to bring a little bit of that energy of some of the faster words, the short syllables back up, okay?
Ku kan menjagamu.
Let's go to the front of the chorus.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu. Ku kan menjagamu.
And
Hingga ke hujung nyawaku.
yeah, it's doing what I expected it to do, right? So all the clarity it helps to bring out. That is the beauty of MV2, man. And we have a special guest in the chat room. Hello, Toy. Toy says hey. Toy say hi to Zach. Zach say hi to Toy. This is our featured artist, all right. In this song, very, very good friend of mine. Worked on him on so many of his solo stuff, and also worked on him on all of the HyperX stuff as well. So shout out to you, Toy. Thanks for joining in the live stream. Hope you're having a good Friday and a weekend ahead, man. So I think we are kind of okay. So we were talking about this vocal here, and where were we? Okay, all right. So we've got the effects already dialed in, and I mentioned, okay, some of the consonants later on will need, right, some editing to soften up later. And I'm going to just try and see, let's leave it this way for now, and let's move on to the BVs, right? Let's draw in some of the BVs. Okay, so again, BVs were all done by Toy himself. Let's just solo one of this.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu.
Okay, so same treatment to it, right? I run it through the same FG73 and the parallel vocal processing, which I do with almost every vocal track.
Ku tahu kau pastinya
Okay, so let's rule out some of the
yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik.
these upper harmonics. We don't need
buatku. Ku tahu kau
we don't need all the top end.
kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang
Okay, and we've got about this at 4.6K that we can take out. Right, let's duplicate this and link the two together, and let's blend in the BV. So let me just check out first. Okay, so on BVs, I also have a particular set of processes, and let me dial that in. So this is actually TDR Nova, and actually there's actually an FG2A as well. But first of all, let's just blend this in, right? Basically first.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu.
There you go. All right, super simple. Okay, let's solo all the BVs now.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya.
Alright, so let's employ Nova to sort of again take out some of those ringing notes, okay?
Yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya.
Around 670, 660 hertz. Okay, let's just, for this one, I'll just keep to the default settings, right? 2 to 1 ratio, 10 millisecond attack, 180 milliseconds. Because with this one, it does not need to be as aggressive, lah, right? Because again, these are BVs after all, right?
Yang terbaik
Just to take out a little bit of,
tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau
Okay.
pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau
okay, and about 1.1K, right? You get that little honk, especially on the high note.
pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya
Slightly wider Q.
yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik
Alright, and listen to it in context.
buat. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Alright, okay. So I would actually drop in also, and I've been using this a lot more, even vocal rider on BVs, okay? Because again, it just does it so transparently, and let's go with moderate, right? So with this can be a little bit more aggressive, right? Not very aggressive in the sense that not say super aggressive lah. It just gives a little bit more wider working range.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Ku tahu kau pastinya.
Oh, I love it. Okay, it's really holding the BV there. Okay, so without even using any additional compression lah. Okay, right. So usually I have for BVs just in case there's another instance, right, of this FG2A here, but in this case, right, it's not really needed, needed as well. Okay, so here we go.
Yang terbaik buatku. Lalu
All right, super cool. So now let's drop in some of the little space reverb to it. Well, not really reverb. Let's put in the same stereo delay.
Diriku kata begitu. Tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu.
In fact, I got a feeling that this needs its own delay, right? So let me just drop in baby audio, baby comeback, right? Which is, I love this this delay plugin, man. So let's go for straight, and this should be quarter notes, wide, and let's check it out. Okay, let's set the ducker.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Feedback less.
Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu.
Let's bring the wet down, level down.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Okay,
Ku
then
tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
okay.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Let's listen in context.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu.
A bit more.
Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu.
Right, okay. So I feel like this BV needs its own moo, 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 moo. Just a little bit behind. A little bit more feedback.
Tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata
A bit more.
begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu.
Bring the ducker down.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impian.
Okay, in fact, let's even bring in a little bit more of the super tap as well. Okay, check it out.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
more actually.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu.
Very cool. Let's play around and maybe let's bring these BVs maybe a little bit more to the middle and see how they feel.
Ku kan tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impian
Yeah, let's just go with heart left, heart right, like, okay? I was trying to bring it a little bit to a middle, but I think it's fair enough. We can split it out and make sure and use the maximum stereo width, because again, I think the benefit of not having too many parts and you know, too many elements, so I don't have to like play around with the stereo placement. I can really make use of the entire stereo feel and width in this way. Super cool, very nice. Okay, now let's move on. We'll get to the verse in a short while. And now let's have this be bridge vocal, the banana. All right, okay, this is so fun, you know.
banana banana na banana banana na.
Okay, right, so let me just dial this in.
Banana banana na banana banana na. Banana banana
Okay, at about 1.7, 1.8K, just a little bit.
banana 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 na. Banana banana na banana banana na. Banana banana na banana
And about 900, just a little bit.
banana na.
There we go. So let's just duplicate this. Super simple, all right? Don't need to use the same vocal processing as the, you know, the main chorus vocal, because again, let's keep things simple, okay? So these all also go to the same lead vocal channel. Let's check it out.
Banana banana na banana banana na. Banana banana na banana banana na. Kau peganglah sumpah janjiku. Banana banana na banana banana na. Percayalah kepadaku. Tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Alright, okay. So some of the consonants still bug me lah, okay? But I got to keep that in mind. Something I'll do in post, alright? Very, very cool. Let's go back now to the verse vocal. So I think there are a couple of interesting things that we did here. So this one, what we were trying to do is we were trying to I think we were trying to play around and make it sound like it's a sound of like an affected thing. So here's a couple of things that I want to point out. So same thing, right? The same vocal processing treatment, but Metatune here, right, is one of the cool things that Metatune has is this doubling feature, and it's one of the best selling points. You can use Metatune not necessarily to use it as a pitch corrector, but even just for the doubler itself, okay? So let's solo this section, all right? And this is just the verse. And
Bercinta memang manis kalau gaduh. Pishang, pishang, orang kata tenang is good, jangan kau du. Pishang, pishang.
right, okay. So I'm taking out, right, actually, so none of the pitch correction is happening.
Terlupa pada janji.
Okay, here we go. So the doubler is set to about 18%. So without, it sounds a little bit.
Ada dating. Pishang, pishang.
So with it, it just gives that a little bit, you know, that little bit of a modulation thing happening.
Lepak mama dengan kawan.
Maybe just dial it a little bit down. Actually, got to listen in context, okay?
Terus perang. Pishang, pishang.
Ku tahu kau pastinya
Actually, it sounded fine the way that it originally was, which is at about 18%.
Terlupa pada janji. Ada dating. Pishang, pishang. Lepak mama dengan kawan.
Okay, you're right. So now the other cool thing that I wanted to point out and just show you is that for this we wanted it to sound as if Thor was doing a very deep radio voice. This is not his usual, all right, vocal register here. Definitely not, right? But we're trying to do this again. This is a fun song. It's a fun little twist, but it's got a really sweet message behind it as well. Okay. So we're doing these verses. We wanted to make this as if we had a really deep kind of radio announcer kind of voice. So the way that we did it, that I did it was to use our bass. Okay, so Renaissance bass is a subharmonic generator. So I dial this to the frequency of about 110 hertz here to sort of get that bottom end right to really resonate. Okay, now I think that I will still need to play around with a few things, and that is actually, I think MV2 will come to the rescue again. So let me just pull this in, because now I've got the chorus vocals really with the right amount of energy and all that, but now the verse needs to also match up with that. So let me just pull up this MV2 and let's solo this verse. Okay. And let's drive it.
Bercinta memang manis kalau gaduh. Pishang, pishang. Orang kata tenang is good. Jangan kau du. Pishang, pishang.
What's much better?
Terlupa pada janji ada dating. Pishang, pishang. Lepak mama dengan kawan terus perang. Pishang, pishang.
Yeah, okay. MV2 really works wonders, man. So same thing also, right? Some of the artifacts on the consonants are starting to jump out a little bit. Again, that's something that I have to deal with in post lah. So there we go. All right. So the funny thing, another funny part is during this bridge. I'll play this real section for you real quickly. All right. Right. This is just super simple. This is just applying a transposition right to the notes, right? So this one is so this is normal, this is straightforward. Okay, this one. So this was transposed up 2 semitones. Then 6 semitones, and then the last one 10 semitones, right? Just simply having fun to it, right? Alright, okay, very cool. Now, so that we've got the vocals done, let's move on to some of the remaining guitars, okay? Right, there's not much left. So let's check out with, first of all, so this is a tremolo guitar. Alright, and this is again something that was using THU slate lah. So this one is so this is obviously you're a guitarist, you would know this looks very familiar. This is the Boss Tremolo, right? And it's going into basically 59 basement, a clean tone. Again, this was the Strat, I think, on the middle pickup, right? Either the middle, this is definitely the middle pickup, right? So you get that twang there, going into a bit of a spring reverb, right? So that typical kind of a country tremolo sound. And again, this was already something that was dialed in. So this is the LE3A. So let's just dial this in and just blend it in. Right, this was already a sound that
Pishang, pishang.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu. Ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia lambang cinta.
right. So every time this comes out, right? This is actually the bass line, so it's just doubling the bass line.
Kasih setia lambang cinta sejati.
Right, okay, so this strum also happens right at the start. So this is also the similar tone actually, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's exactly the same tone. So it's just another strum at the start of the chorus.
Pishang, Pishang,
Ku tahu kau
terus berang. Pishang, Pishang,
Dial it back down.
terus berang. Pishang, Pishang,
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impian
Okay, I think got to dial back this a little bit.
ku sejak ketemu. Ku kan menjagamu.
Alright, so second half, right? So there is this little funky guitar part that happens, right? This little funky strum. Thor really likes this part, so right, it's super cool. Okay, let me just EQ it. Take out a bit of that one.
Ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia lambang cinta sejati. Semoga berkekalan til jannah. Ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia lambang cinta sejati.
Yeah, so it's basically the funky. Right, okay. Oh, Toy is logging in from two different accounts. Toy says the best JD. Alright. Thank you, man. Alright.
Semoga berkekalan til jannah.
So let me just check out what this is. So again, these are sounds right, that already been dialed in. So this is basically like a blues lead tone compressor, right, into TS9, right, into this is a deluxe reverb, right, dark phase, they call it 65. Can you call it dark? Can you still call this dark phase? I thought this is like politically not correct, right? And spring reverb lah, right? Simple, straightforward, blues rock kind of a tone.
bersiap. Tunggu lama kena sidak.
Aku temu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia.
Okay, right. So I think for this, the trem and the dirt guitar, I'm just going to pull it a little bit into about 75 in and out, because so that it probably don't want it to poke out too much. I still want the rhythm power chords to kind of anchor the mix.
Setia lambang cinta sejati.
All right. Okay. So one more thing, we are almost there. All right. So I mentioned earlier, you can hear a little bit of what's going on already. Mentioned earlier, you hear there's this little vocal synth sound going on. Let me just solo this. So how this was done. Okay, this is actually, right? This is actually Toy's vocal. He hummed it, and what we did was we used, okay, let me just solo it without the effect. Okay, but not only that, this was also ran through Very Audio to give it that give it like the auto tune sort of effect, right? And then ran through Alter Boy. So Alter Boy from Sound Toys, right? Let's check it out. So it's pitched up an octave above, Foreman shifted as well, a bit of saturation, a bit of overdrive here, and then blended in with the original signal. And last but not least, the final ingredient is this reverb, right? So Valhalla, right? Okay, this is the Valhalla Supermassive. Okay, again, this one actually, right? Shout out to Darren Tay, right, of An Honest Mistake. He is the one who actually turned me on to this this cool reverb. I think it's free. If I'm not mistaken, it's actually a free reverb plugin and very, very cool. It's great for these super long, lush ambient reverbs and delays, right? And it's really, really cool as well. So let me just EQ this, take out a bit of the top end. We don't really need. All right, there you go. So now I think I may have to just bring back. Okay. Yeah, just tone down a little bit of the feedback lah. Okay, right, yeah, let's tone it down a little bit. So this was practically it, okay? Now, I think what I will want to do though is probably add a little bit more saturation on the distortion to this. I think I need to distort and add a little bit more dirt to it. So what I'm gonna do is let me go and look for, I haven't used this in a while. Look for audio indent, unfiltered audio, and let's just play around with this. Okay, let's play around with, okay, slightly saturated mid blend. Let's listen to this. Okay, let's loop the little vocal synth. So it is very, very mid-rangey actually, you know. So let's go for something distorted amp. Yeah, that's all right. That's yeah, let's set this cutoff here. Have a bit of resonant filter there. Let's bring in a little bit the mix. And very importantly, listen in context, okay? Because that was the only thing. I just wanted to give it a little bit more grit lah.
Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke ujung nyawaku. Di dalam kasih setia lambang cinta sejati. Semua
Okay. Is that distorted enough?
ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke ujung nyawaku.
Let's bring it more.
Di dalam kasih setia lambang cinta sejati. Semua
In fact, it needs to be a little bit louder actually. Let's play around with the automation again. Let's bring this back up to maybe 12 dB. Maybe 13, minus 13.
ku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke ujung nyawaku. Di dalam kasih setia lambang cinta sejati. Semoga berkekalan til jannah.
Very, very cool. Maybe let's play around and let it bounce.
Sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke ujung nyawaku.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more interesting, isn't it? Let's have it like kind of a bounce around a little bit, all right? Let's have it move left and right. So let's automate this.
Sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke ujung nyawaku. Di dalam kasih setia lambang cinta sejati. Semoga berkekalan til jannah.
Right, okay, let's fine tune this. Okay. Okay, so this should probably start at, yeah, so it'll slowly start at maybe about a little bit wider out, 75. Do dee da do, boo dee da da, and it should end here, 2 bars, right? 2 bar pattern. Okay, it's got a bit of that reverb tail actually, so maybe let's let that reverb kind of spill all the way out and then back to life. Back to life. Oh boy. Okay. That's very, very old. Okay, and then the cycle repeats. Alright. Such a long reverb tail, man. Okay, so this cycle would repeat here, and yeah, that's what we would get. 75, and this reverb would go. Okay, from this one, I think this reverb should go back to the middle. All right, so, or even just to give it a bit of interest, a bit of motion to the left, lah. Right? Let's listen to how it sounds like, just to give this vocal synthing a little bit more interest.
Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke ujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah.
Alright, okay. As you can notice, I actually automated this here because otherwise the reverb tail is going to go all the way and stretch for like a couple of seconds. Like, it's like what, 10 seconds long. Okay, so let's copy this same automation pattern. Let's bring it to the next chorus. Okay, now that when I've done this little panning, it makes it jump out a little bit more. So I think I will have to just drop the volume just by maybe 1 or 2 dB. We'll see how. Okay, let's just copy all this automation, and there's one more, right? Yeah, one more set here. Bar 97. And let me just drop this volume back down to maybe where I had at 15 was actually right. Okay, let's listen to this section.
Tahukah pasti percayalah kepadaku, tahukah pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Yeah, I think minus 15 is good.
Biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu.
Okay, now these BVs sound a little bit dull now. Just need a little bit of EQ to just lift it up a bit. Okay, hello, where are you? Okay, let's play here.
Kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Okay, listen in context, okay?
Tahukah pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Lalu
Yeah, that's better.
kata begitu, biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu.
Okay, right. So here, even the vocals also probably need a little bit of automation.
Impianku sejak ketemu.
And in fact, what I will do now is I'm going to switch over to my pair of Yamaha NS10s. We're almost there, man. Just to give me a second different frame of reference, listening to the smaller speakers. All right. Super cool. Thank you so much for tuning in. And let's check it out, all right?
Bercinta memang manis kalau gaduh. Pishang, pishang, orang kata.
Very cool. Then going into the chorus.
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
Very good. So this last chorus, I think, which needs a little bit of lift on the overall level. So maybe just a bit of a... Okay, in fact...
Kekalan til jannah.
Right, in fact, at the bridge, right, all of these need to just drop down by about 2 dB first. Okay, all the pitch shifted vocals. And then back in the banana part.
Kau peganglah sumpah janjiku.
Okay, and then this line.
Kau peganglah sumpah janjiku.
Okay, just a little bit of an automation up here. Maybe just half a dB, I think.
Kau peganglah sumpah janjiku.
Okay, right. Back down to 0. Just half a dB. Percaya. Okay, so the per also, right? Again, this is all automation lah. Right? Needs to bring that word out.
Percayalah kepadaku, tahukah pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu, biarlah ku menjadi bapa pada anakmu. Impianku sejak ketemu, ku kan menjagamu hingga ke hujung nyawaku. Idaman kasih
There we go.
setia, lambang cinta sejati, semoga berkekalan til jannah.
Kena kental baru padu takkan
Alright, so there's one last little funny effect here. Let's just dial that in. Okay.
Pishang,
Here we go.
padu takkan Pishang
Okay, this just blends in one little pishang.
takkan Pishang
There we go. Okay, roughly, let's just do that first. Alright, so super cool. We are pretty much done. Now, so this is actually, I would say, maybe about 80-85% there. This is what I would consider a first draft of the mix. Now, there's a lot of other fine-tuned stuff, and I think I've explained it before, right? If I were to show you all the fine-tuning automation, right, in the words, and as I said, I mentioned, right, some of the editing on some of the consonants, which I have to sort of soften and tone it down. I have to do it later in after this lah. But this is the kind of a good spot and a good place to sort of wrap things up, right? Usually running into about 2-3 hours into a mix. It's always a good time to take a little break, a little bit of ear break. What I'll do is I'll come back, all right? What I've shown you would be the broad strokes, some of the automation, broad stuff that I've done. All the fine detail tuning is something that I'll do later. If I can't show it to you on the live stream, because otherwise we're gonna be here until right until dawn, okay, until 5-6 a.m. in the morning. So one last thing, I just want to add a few more stuff, right? What I would call a little bit of let's deal with some of the master bus processing, okay? So this goes back to the master or the stereo bus. Okay, let me just very quickly show you what I have. This Aosis Air EQ adds a very subtle amount of this air band here, okay, just a little bit. And sometimes I will add this earth band, again, depending on whether it's necessary or not, okay. But I always have this EQ in here just to give it a little bit of air. So Waves C4, this is a multi-band compressor. I have this on here just to, what this does is just a very, very mild and light multi-band compressions, just to make sure that there's no particularly range or frequencies that poke out a little bit too much. So usually how I'll dial this in, right, I'll pick out wherever the loudest part. In this case, I'll play the chorus and just bring the threshold down just until I see the right gain reduction, just barely touching it. Okay, that's all it needs to do. Just bring it down. And that's it, right? Just barely dancing. That's all it does, okay? Not more than that. It's not meant to be super it's not meant to be very obvious. And then let's show you, right? Let me show you what I have here. Virtual bus compressors. A couple of compressors that I've picked out, right, to to run together. So FG Gray, this will be an SSL. FG Red is the Focusrite Red compressor, and FG Mu is a Fairchild 670. Okay, so all of these, how I would dial into compression on all of these is that they're all going to be doing a little bit of compression, not more than a dB each, and this is basically there to so that not one single compressor has to work so hard. Okay, so all of these just does a little bit, I find that, especially when you work in the digital, in the digital domain, this gets a much more satisfying result to me lah, right? Instead of pushing one single compressor real hard. So let's go to that. Okay, all right. I think Zach commented there. Switch to headphones too. Okay, right. I probably wouldn't like, but that's for me. Okay, when I'm mixing here in the studio, I won't switch to headphones because that's a very drastic change. Because in terms of the stereo imaging, it's a huge change. But I will do headphones for listening tests, right? That means after I've mixed it, I will listen and I will check on headphones. Actually, to be honest, right, I actually check mostly on cheap Sony earbuds, and I listen to them. When I'm taking a walk or in the car, I'll listen to those very often. But sometimes, all right, I will listen and use headphones more of like a final check lah, right? But not really to mix, right? Not at this point in time. So let's dial this in, right? Not more than 1 dB. And this is gonna really tighten up the mix. That's all. There we go, right? So all of it's just doing very subtle amounts, 1 dB, 1 dB, 1 dB. Okay, now let me pull up another piece of that I like to use, that I really love, SPL Iron. This is gonna be set to, all right, MS mode. So okay, right, so this is MS mode. Again, I explained earlier what MS is. So this is actually a mastering compressor that's been set to do MS processing. So this one is super subtle. Let's turn off the parameter link. What I do know is that I don't want the output boost on the mid, and here to compensate, I have to bring this down. So what this does is that it subtly widens and kind of gives everything a little bit more separation. This is what it does. And again, this is very subtle. This is barely moving. All right, half a dB of gain reduction. That's all. It's not much. Yeah, and then bypass, slightly smaller, opens up. All right, it kind of opens up the whole mix to me. Loving it, man. Okay, and a very cool thing that the Iron mastering compressors also has is that it's got this little tone switch here, right? I'm not sure, right? You might have to zoom in to see it. Unfortunately, we can't really adjust the. Can we adjust the UI? That's interesting. Red, black, all black. Oh, okay. Let's change it to red. Okay, let's change it to all black. Okay, all black was so cool. Let's change it to black so this is easier to see, right? The meter. Okay, this is probably a little bit easier to see. So it's got this 3-position switch here. One is called air bass. That's basically a smiley curve EQ, right? A little bit more bottom on the sub, a little bit more on the air. And it's also got one more setting here called tape roll off, right? So this has a very subtle roll off at the top end, right? And then last of all, right, in the middle switch is bypass. So this one is not going to affect anything. So depending on the styles, I will sometimes engage this, right, and just to compare and see lah. Okay, but I know for certain when I'm dealing with this type of rock material, I usually go for a bit of a tape roll off. Okay, it's really pleasant, helps to take the edge off a little bit. Yeah. Okay, I'm liking it, alright? So I would say that actually 9 out of 10 times I go for the tape roll off. Right? Okay, no, not really lah. I would say maybe 6 out of 10 times I go for tape roll off. Maybe 3 out of 10 I just leave it at neutral. And 1 in 10 times I'll use the air bass setting. But again, it depends on the song, it depends on the mix and what's needed lah. Okay, last one, universal audio. I'm going to drop in again. This is something that I was taught, right? No, I mean something that I picked up from, right? A mastering engineer. Just inserting the API 560 into the chain. This one helps to solidify the middle. Okay, right? So that's all it does. There's a slight gain boost, right? But that's what. But the main thing is that it keeps the center a little bit more solid. Right. So, last thing, one final thing to show before we wrap up. Okay, the easiest trick, right? One of the easiest techniques which you can artificially generate a little bit of excitement, a little bit of energy, especially when you hit the choruses, is just to automate the stereo bars. Okay, and I'll show that how I do that right now. Let's arm and write the automation. So, going into the chorus. Okay, here we go.
Pishang lepak mama
You ready?
dengan kawan terus
Here we go.
Pishang, Pishang
2, 3, 4. Yeah, so just a 1 bar ride, okay? Right. So it rides it up for this 1 bar. And I will usually not go more than 1 dB up. So it's a very subtle thing. The human ear, when the listener hears it, it sounds it's imperceptible, right? They perceive it just as, oh, suddenly becomes a little bit more exciting.
berang. Pishang, Pishang
Ku tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku. Naluriku kata begitu. Dialah
Okay,
ku
and then
menjadi bapa pada.
let's forward to the end of the chorus. Okay. Oh, excuse me there. A little bit of a yawn.
Cinta sejati.
Ready? 3, 4. Right. So it would be the same type of pattern that I did with the room mics, lah. Right. Right. Same kind, the same in terms of the dynamics that I'm playing in here. So another easy trick to sort of make your choruses pop out a little bit more. Okay. Down 56. Okay, same thing. 1 dB up.
Ku tahu kau berkekalan til jannah.
And last but not least, into the banana banana. There we go. All the way to the end.
Kau peganglah sumpah janjiku. Percayalah kepadaku. Tahu kau pastinya yang terbaik buatku.
I feel I'm hearing a couple of things. I'm hearing that maybe in the post after this, I may want to add, a tambourine loop in the choruses, and I may even add, maybe want to sample and add in like a little kind of a clap sample underneath the chorus snare. So every time the snare hits, so you get a bit of a clap. Maybe an 808 or a 909 electronic clap, something like that, just to give it a little bit more spark, right? Again, I'm thinking of this in more dynamic and a production arrangement kind of a question lah. So I'll probably do this, and when it's out, when the song is out, you hear the final version. Okay, so this is what I would say would be the first draft of the mix. Take it back, all right? Go and take an ear break, come back again fresh the next morning, and you do a little bit of fine tuning here and there lah. So, and Zachary says great advice. Okay, I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but hey, these are things that work for me. I encourage everyone to try it out, right? Because everyone is different. You will always, it's always an interesting journey to go and find out and explore and use different techniques and see which one appeals to you and the style of music that you work in. So, all right, let's wrap this up. All right, let's wrap this baby up. Let's do one last final listen to the entire song. Once again, this is Toy Nizam's upcoming brand new single called Pishang. Okay, a very funny and a super fun track. So please follow Toy. Right, details, right, all of his social media down in the description below. And if you want to support, all right, the featured artist, okay, one of the cool things is that you can sign up to become a patron, right? Check out the code up there, right? You can see it should be up here. When you sign up to become a patron, right, at the Patreon page, 50% of the revenue, if you become a patron, right, by watching this, 50% revenue will go to the featured artist. Okay, you can check it out. The website explains in detail, right, all the different perks and benefits as well, right. Shout out once again, right, to all the patrons who support the channel. Zach, right, is been a long time supporter as well. And let's wrap this baby up. Let's listen to, right, Pishang first draft of the mix one more time. So thank you so much, folks. Right. Hope you guys will have a good weekend. For those of you who are watching this on a replay, right, hope that you're all staying good, staying safe out there, okay? So first verse. Right. So some of the other things, I think the ghost notes, right, the chucks, again, Toy has mentioned, just to tone it down a little bit. Again, that's something they'll do in automation, just to automate all those parts down. Maybe just even layering an extra high snare like a piccolo or something like that, just to give this a bit more snap to it, you know. Synth. Second verse. So again, right, with all the automation of the mid sides, right, the room mid sides, even the distorted room sample, the bass, just helps to give this chorus a bit of definition. Becomes a little bit bigger, becomes a little bit wider. Definitely needs some kind of a percussion, most likely a tambourine loop, just to give it, you know, either 16 notes or 32nd notes. Maybe the hi-hat needs to be brought up a little touch, okay? Just maybe play around with that. This should be automated, I think, so that when it gets into the chorus, just bring in a little bit more of the extra hi-hat in the chorus. Really fun. Okay? Zachariah says good night, stay safe. Right. Same to you, Zach. Right. All the best to you. And to the rest of the folks, thank you so much for watching. Catch you in another video real soon. Right. Happy recording, mixing. Right. Stay safe. Peace, love, and music. Out.